my brother and I really like Kentucky. Rachelle, take it away, my friend. Let's give it up for Rachelle Gordon and this next panel focused on growing with Kentucky.
Hello. Yeah, come sit down. Join me.
That's right.
I know, so did I. Hello, how are we all doing? It's a beautiful day here in Cincinnati. Thank you so much for being here, for sticking around for this awesome deep dive into Kentucky. I know we heard a little bit about Kentucky earlier. Many may think, well, this is an Ohio conference, but since you can literally throw a football to Kentucky, I think it makes a lot of sense that we would have some content around this emerging market. Before I introduce the panel, I'll introduce myself. I'm Rachelle Gordon. I'm the editor of GreenState. It's a cannabis publication owned by Hearst Newspapers. We do mostly consumer-facing content. We do some business-facing content as well. Love the Ignite team. Really happy to be back on their stage. And I'm going to actually let the panelists introduce themselves and explain a little bit more about their expertise and what brought them to this stage. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Sullivan. I'm the Executive Vice President for Public Affairs at Cresco Labs. I've been in cannabis for 11 years. Incidentally, I was started in cannabis the first year safe banking was introduced in the Congress, so 11 years later here, we still don't have that done. Just a side note. But I was a medical cannabis operator. I started with 2 dispensaries in Illinois, built them out, staffed them up, stood behind the counter, ran those for 3 years, merged with Cresco Labs, have been doing their legal, regulatory, government affairs. I ran their retail for a little bit. As we all know in cannabis, you have to be a jack of all trades in order to survive. So. And now here I am, starting in Kentucky, and very excited about that. So looking forward to discussing with everybody.
Hi, I'm Leah Lakarosky. I'm the CFO of nuEra Cannabis. We currently operate in Illinois, cultivation all the way through dispensaries, hoping to open our 9th dispensary in a few weeks, so that's exciting, in Illinois. And then we're expanding into Kentucky, also managing cultivation, processing, and retail.
Hi, everyone. My name is Malina Dumas. I'm a partner at Dentons, which is a global law firm with a large national cannabis practice group. I've been working full-time as a licensing and regulatory compliance attorney for the past 7 years, working with a lot of people in our group who've been doing this much longer than that. In addition to day-to-day licensing and regulatory matters, I support on large-scale M&A, a lot of ESOP transactions recently, where you need to get regulatory approvals for changes in ownership and licenses across multiple jurisdictions. I started working closely with our team, our colleagues in our Lexington and Louisville offices in Kentucky when Kentucky legalized medical cannabis. So I'm a little bit more behind the scenes, but it's been really exciting to be working with a new team there to support clients in this emerging space. So I'm looking forward to talking to you all today.
Good afternoon, I'm Dan Mason. I am the president of Traditional Bank. We are a $2.4 billion bank located in central Kentucky. We've been involved in the cannabis industry for about 12 months. We had a board offsite and they decided that we should serve our community since we already do bourbon and lots of other vices that are out of our Commonwealth. So we formed a dedicated team representing the lending side of the bank, the cash management and deposit side of the bank, and of course the compliance part of the bank. We tend to do things well, and that includes the compliance piece. So that's important to us. So yeah, we're happy to be a part of the cannabis industry in Kentucky. We certainly want to do all we can to support it. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. Real quick temp check. Just want to get a little bit of information from the crowd about how familiar we are with the Kentucky market. Raise your hand if you're like very familiar and following closely with what's going on there. Few people. Some people who are just like cautiously curious about what's going on there. don't know anything about what's going on there? Okay, cool. Just want to inform our panelists as they go through their questions. So I know we heard a little bit earlier about the Kentucky market itself, how many licenses are available, but Leah, I was wondering if you could dive a little bit deeper into the actual opportunity there.
Yeah, so for all of you who have been in here and heard Brad and Hannah earlier, you've heard that the Kentucky rollout of the medical program is limited with the number of licenses that they're offering around the, I'll say it right, the Commonwealth. And I think for us as one of the first operators to dive in with the group to build out the industry there's a lot of really good opportunities to build relationships with the regulators, with providers in the industry like Dan and Traditional Bank, who have been great local partners for us there, as well as with the communities and also with the patients as we roll out, really starting those relationships early. For those of you in the room who have done medical rollouts, I know John was part of the Illinois rollout years ago. Sometimes the medical pickup can be a little bit slower, so as you start gaining patients, you kind of are on the forefront of helping them learn what works for them, and then you build those relationships early. So I think that was really for us part of it, is to say, can we get in early, really get to know those relationships and be part of the first people on the front lines there. But Kentucky, the adoption of the medical program has already been pretty great. I think we're up to about 15,000 patients. Hannah can back check me on that one, which is great when there's no product on the shelves yet. So we're really hoping that within the first 12 months of there actually being products on the shelves, that community is really going to grow and then continue to grow from there. So I think it was a really great opportunity, especially for us coming, the company being, having medical roots in Illinois and being close geographically. Yeah, okay, I said that right. Okay, sweet. And then, of course, I have a little bit of a soft spot for it because I live in Kentucky. So while I'm the CFO of now I'm, multi-state operator, it's locally close to my heart.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So rolling out any market has its challenges, and obviously the literal million-dollar question is always, how am I going to fund this thing? So Dan, I'm curious, from your perspective, how are people sourcing capital? Why did your bank decide to get into this game? And what's the investment risk?
Yeah, so I guess as we evaluated the opportunity for us, our research suggested that there weren't a lot of banks doing lending. So it's really to try to get deposits and charge some fees and make a quick buck. We were more interested in trying to serve the entire industry and thinking that if we're going to do it, we're going to be relationship oriented and do both loans and deposits. That's a tall task for you all. This, most of you, that if you're coming into a new industry with new legislation specific to our Commonwealth, and the first dollar of cash flow has not been produced, and you're going to go to your bank and say, hey, I would like to borrow $3 million, I'm going to buy some licenses and then do some startup, and it's going to be awesome, we're going to make a lot of money. It's a really tough ask. So we wanted to be able to help in as much as we could. So we elected to do equipment financing, real estate financing, and also some lines of credit. So it's a little bit of a slog to be a startup. So we're gonna vet pretty heavily on the likelihood that the operator is going to be successful. What we are seeing a lot of in terms of startup are a lot of private capital, friends, family, that sort of thing, which are very in line with historic funding of small businesses. There's also a lot of specialty equity financing out there in the space. Those are going to be pretty high rates. Some equity stakes too. You can dilute quite a bit. So that's out there, and then sale leasebacks are popular out there, ways to conserve your cash, because at this point we don't know, how long it's going to be before the market stabilizes in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It just takes a little bit of time for the supply to catch up to the demand, and how all that's going to shake out in a new industry for Kentucky. So a lot of the traditional sources, debt, equity, family, friends, that sort of stuff. But there's a pretty strong industry out there of private equity too that are looking to invest. So.
Can I jump in on that one?
Please.
Dan, I just want to say thank you to you and your bank, because this is so rare that a bank is willing to lend any money in the cannabis industry. It is, you really need a couple things to be successful in a new market, right? You need a good regulator, and if you could plug your ears, we actually, between Sam and now Cannon, have had really great leadership that stems from a governor there who really wants to help people and get medicine to people. So that's you have to have that, number one. Number two, you have to have a source of money. And normally that is pass the hat, beg your friends and family, hope that you can get some money, and then survive for a couple of years in an environment where you have 280 of the tax code, and you get crazy interest rates. So kudos for their bank for jumping in, because it is so rare. But I'm curious, Dan, when there's always this push and pull in every new market, right? We want locals, we want, Kentucky or Illinois or whatever resident of whatever state to be the ones that hold the licenses and are the participants, right? Small businesses. If somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, I'm Joe, I've never run a business before, but I won this license and I need $20 million to set up a 25,000 square foot grow. What's that conversation like?
Well, for us, for our regulatory bodies, they're going to want to know what your source of repayment is and how likely is it to happen, and that's going to be it. Pro formas aren't going to be enough. There has to be at least two sources of repayment. We automatically know that the primary source, which is sales of cannabis, is absolutely speculative. In the banking space, using depositors' money, that just will not fly. So immediately we go to the sponsors, the owners, to see what their capacity is, and we will evaluate that. And if that's there, fantastic, then we can find a way around it. Not a lot of people in Kentucky could easily stroke a check or cash flow a $20 million facility in a short period of time. So that's tough.
Is it still a lot of personal guarantees? You're looking for the owner's base. Because to your point, cannabis is speculative. It relies on government, et cetera. It's personal. So I have to have some personal wealth still to get in.
Absolutely.
Right? So I guess then what you see is a lot of licenses get transacted, right? People come to that realization as they go, I've won this golden ticket. I think I'm going to be able to build it out and finance it, but ultimately, and I think that's where we're getting in a Kentucky market right now, is a lot of transactions going on.
Yeah, and the other piece too is the license itself is not pledgeable. We can't use that as collateral. There's no mechanism to control it like there is a car title going through the government. It could change hands and we would never know about it. So there's really, plus the value of it can change dramatically in these early days. So it's all capital. It's tough.
In our pre-panel call, John, you have such a wealth of experience in this, right? Setting up shop early, weathering the early storms, right, that come with a rollout, and setting yourself up for success long term. What are some of the things that you've learned in that journey that could be applied in Kentucky and beyond?
Well, that's a tough question. Just be prepared to be poor for a long time. That's just the gist of it. This industry is really hard. People think, I remember back in 2014, 2015, when we won our 2 licenses in Illinois, all of my friends were like, oh, you're rich now. It's like cannabis, it's great. Everybody, it's the green rush. The green rush went away a long time ago, and in fact, it probably never really existed because of 280 of the tax code, because you couldn't get a bank. I remember I could fit $67,000 in my backpack in $20 bills, and that's how I used to go to the state of Illinois and pay taxes. It's gotten better since then because there are people like Dan and others that have helped the industry, but it's really it's like you need double the money you think you need to weather the storm. You got to be like, my first day in Illinois, we spent, let's call it $1 million building out our first dispensary. We had 9 patients the first day. Of course, Illinois used to fingerprint patients and run background checks before you could get a medical card, which is absurd. But that's the only way we get the law passed. I mean, there's still, like, hopefully our Kentucky regulators will be working with us because there's things we're talking about in the green room today. Like, there's an affidavit requirement. Like, if you're, there's a notary requirement on your affidavit to get your medical card. So you have to get your information from your doctor, and you have to get this notary piece of paper. Every one of those steps makes it more difficult for patients to get their medicine. So increasing the patient counts, and then the other big hurdle really is being able to advertise and message to people. Government is, and I get it, like they don't want attractive advertising to children, they don't want to see a lot of advertising out there, but like, like we have to be more realistic about cannabis as a medicine. We forget about the medicinal value of cannabis. Even in medical market, it's really easy. Like when people go and they watch the Super Bowl or whatever else, they're seeing ads for drugs that like cause bleeding and all this other kind of, like we have a drug that doesn't really have side effects other than maybe you're drowsy and hungry, right? Yet we can't educate patients in the same way that other pharmaceuticals do. It doesn't make, so we have to continue to work on those things. Those are some of the biggest challenges.
I was going to say, I don't think you've worked in cannabis if you haven't gotten a bank account shut down or someone else's bank account shut down, so.
So I'm curious, and this is going off book a little bit, but like, now that so many folks have been in the industry for a while, and it seems like Kentucky is going to be set up with a lot of folks who have been in the industry for a while, like, we all know these things, so what other advice can we give them, and how do we set up long-term for success? Malina, I know that we talked about it a little bit on the call earlier.
Absolutely, and I actually forgot to mention when I was introducing myself, the reason I was working with colleagues in Lexington and Louisville is I'm actually up in the state of Maine, so that's where I started in this space originally, and then I support projects for clients across the country. But I think something that's really important when you're starting off as an operator in a new market, and especially if you're coming in from out of state or just kind of showing your dedication to the community. Leah was talking about this a little bit with relationships with vendors in the community, showing that you're there for the long term. What I really focused on a lot was relationships with regulators that I find can be extremely valuable if you kind of cultivate those over time, and not just kind of conveying what you need from the regulators or what your concerns are, but treating them as a true team member. Like we're all in this together. We all want this to be a successful rollout of the program. Asking the regulators, like, what can we do to make your job easier? When you're submitting license applications, think about the person behind the desk and how you can submit materials to them that makes it more streamlined for them to review. Ask questions. If you see something that seems wrong, bring it to their attention in a really non-confrontational way. Just like, I saw this, is this how it's supposed to be? Or, if you're getting requests for information or you're being asked to do something on the ground that you don't think is required by the rules, like think about picking your battles early on. Like maybe it's worth a quick question to the regulator, like, are you sure this is required? Because I'm reading it this way. And sometimes asking that question and in like a very friendly way, and I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page because the rules allow for a lot of discretion. You might get a reaction that's like, oh yeah, actually, we don't need that. And then you don't set that precedent that you're providing kind of more than is required moving forward. Because we also talked a little bit about how, the rollout of this program is still in progress. Like we're probably not going to see a fully operational market with everyone, up and running until sometime next year. So the rules, and this was talked about in the panel earlier too, we need to see how this plays out, how the rules as currently drafted are implemented on the ground. A lot of times you can't see that a rule doesn't work the way it's drafted until you're like training employees, and it's just hard to kind of understand those things on paper. But I think it's really important for the industry to be engaged now again in those conversations with regulators and also in trade groups. It's really great that there's a strong trade group in Kentucky, the Kentucky Cannabis Industry Alliance. I can tell that the board members are very involved, and while the rules won't change for some time, you're starting to pick up on things that you would change, or so kind of mobilizing as a group to discuss common goals. You'll be much more successful when it ultimately comes up in the legislature the next time around or with rulemaking to come together as as a trade group on things that are really important to the success of the industry, rather than kind of picking small battles along the way, like just kind of treating the regulators with respect, which seems obvious, but like really understanding where they're coming from, putting yourself in their shoes, what they're dealing with day to day, understanding that timelines are going to get protracted, for approvals as time goes on, just because their staff gets really overwhelmed and busy. So that's been my experience in other states too. Like developing those relationships early on will kind of allow the regulators to give you the benefit of the doubt when something does come up. You're a trusted operator. Surround yourself by professionals that will do the same on your behalf. And you might even get a call, when they're talking about upcoming legislation. What do you think? Because you've been in this space for a long time. You've been a great operator here. We'd just like to have a conversation with you. I think that'll go a long way to building a foundation for future success in Kentucky.
One thing that we talked a lot about on our pre-panel call was kind of the unique position that Kentucky could be in should there be any sort of federal reform, right? Especially as it relates to other industry and distribution. Can you speak a little bit to that? If we were to see, interstate commerce, something like that open up, how is Kentucky positioned to tackle that and potentially be a leader in the space?
Yeah, and I'll answer this quickly.
Yeah, please.
This is something that I had wanted to talk about, just Dentons being a national law firm working with clients across the country. We think about, what happens when there's federal legalization. I mentioned I'm from Maine. Maine's probably not going to be where most cannabis is grown. It's probably going to be an import state rather than an export state. So that's something we worry about for our clients. But Kentucky is really set up for success when that ultimately happens, given its history in tobacco and other industries, and just having a really strong distribution network that'll allow for, kind of be one of those transportation distribution hubs in the country down the road. So that's really like the very long-term play, I think, for staying engaged and committed to operating in Kentucky.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of this, but I heard several rumors when I was in Kentucky most recently that they've been growing cannabis in the mountains there for a couple hundred years. So that may or may not be true. I don't know. I can't confirm, but it is a great climate. It could be a great hub for interstate commerce. It's an interesting question whether or if that will ever happen federally. I mean, to get 60 votes in the United States Senate to allow cannabis to cross state lines, we may need a couple more years. I remember last year with Safe Banking, I was like talking to 82-year-old Pat Leahy, who had to talk to 86-year-old Mitch McConnell to figure out if, cannabis was, if we were going to allow banking. Like, it's absurd where we're at with the federal government still. So hopefully we're going to get there. What that looks like eventually when we do, it's a great question. But Kentucky is, we're investing. As a management company coming in there, because we know that it could be a great hub, it could be a great future for Kentucky, it could be a great industry, but that also relies on, again, Governor Beshear is great. It depends on who the next governor is. The next governor after that, right? Because interstate commerce isn't tomorrow. So hopefully this industry will prove that Kentucky can be a great model for medical cannabis, which will then encourage more folks, both federally and on a local level, to allow for the growth in the industry.
What makes it a great model, in your opinion?
For me, Kentucky is just, people go back and forth. I think limited licenses, especially in a response to what happened in Oklahoma, you have to begin this at a certain rate. In any state, how that grows, can be subject to debate, but it's limited licenses. It's going to get a great foundation, I think, through the investment that's going to be made there. And again, it's just got a huge, almost instant growth potential if we got to interstate commerce, because there is, and we could grow it outside, which we eventually should be able to do. It could be, it is well positioned with interstate commerce to just be an explosive part of the cannabis world in the future in Kentucky.
I'd love to open it up to the audience if there are any questions about what's going on or not going on in Kentucky just yet. Anybody questions? No? Oh, right over here, yes.
You really do get it with every state. I mean, it certainly happened in New York, happened in Illinois. You know, we're seeing it a lot. We saw it in Pennsylvania, which gave additional licenses to, you know, independent growers. It's a push and pull. There is a, look, we have to keep in mind this is medicine. It's not something that, you know, when I started with a group of MDs and that were putting together a medical cannabis company. It's not something that, like I said earlier, no offense to Joe off the street, but like if you have no idea what medical cannabis is and you win a license, like there has to be an expectation that some expertise will come in. And I think the best states, and I think Kentucky has done a nice job by allowing management agreements. You do the lottery, you let some local folks win, but then you bring in some expertise to help those operations get set up efficiently so they can get financial backing from folks like Dan and bring in folks from Dentons and others that, and then you just, like, you got to go down there and form partnerships. I've spent a great deal of time in Kentucky. The folks we are hiring are locals that are going to run our facility with some training from us. So it takes time. It's like with legislators. You have to, it's a constant working together to make the best industry possible, whether you're a new independent person who just won a license, or and I hate the phrase multi-state operator. We are medical state operators. That's how we all got in the business. We all make medicine for people. Somehow MSO has become a dirty word. Like we've provided medicine for millions of patients across this country, like without a recall. Like we've never had a recall. Like so safe medicine. So whatever, we set up training. We give loans to independent operators in the states. We do a lot of things to help ingratiate ourselves. And I think it's that kind of partnership that will lift everybody up. And hopefully that's how Kentucky will end up being.
Yeah, and I'll add too, I think it's also, hopefully some of the noise will die down when product starts hitting the shelves and people see that it's quality products that's helping people. I think it's always easier to continue to clamor as things still are getting built out, and we're just about a little under a year away from when the lottery was held. So hopefully as the industry also starts opening up, people start realizing that the product that's getting brought to market is quality.
I think I saw a hand up over in the middle somewhere as well, possibly, did I? Yes.
I am interested in how mature product has gotten to the Kentucky market already.
Like how, like what, talking about inversion or like just like stuff getting shipped in or what?
Yeah, because I know there's, I guess, some in the rules that you're allowed to bring in for the first time. Are you allowed to bring in product from out of state, or does it all have to go start from state?
Well, I think there's one thing if it's an immaculate conception, right, as we call it, but like there's certainly not any out-of-state product coming in. But I mean, you guys can maybe speak to a little bit more in Kentucky, but I believe that when I've seen other markets roll out, it's like, yes, the genetics are there, right? But as far as like just importing stuff, no.
No, yeah. All of the Kentucky product will be grown and produced in Kentucky, so it's not going to be like bringing in product ready to go across borders. I think if that was the case, I think there'd be product already in Kentucky, so.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a window opens where you can bring in your genetics, but you have to grow it and manufacture it and process it there. There's no finished products that are allowed from out of state. Well, that's back to the immaculate part. We don't like to talk about federal law.
Yeah, it gets into metric, right?
I'm gonna go to my lawyer. Should I comment?
I was gonna say.
Almost out of time.
That's the Dentons response, yeah.
On that note, I'm going to let everybody give their quick last second thoughts on Kentucky or where folks can find you. Last thoughts, starting with John.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky's going to be great. I mean, it's nice to have a new medical market that is very thoughtful. And like I said before, have been in so many states where regulators or governors did not want the program that they got, and it really beats you down. I mean, it's horrible. We're really fortunate in Kentucky. They're really pressing hard. It's been a great experience, and I think it's going to be a really successful market.
Yeah, same. We're excited to be part of it and be part of the beginning of what I think is going to be an awesome journey for the state.
So I'll just do a little plug. So I help to manage the Dentons Cannabis blog, Kentucky Cannabis blog. So if people are interested, they can check out that website. I think it's KentuckyCannabisLaw.com. I probably should have checked that beforehand. So we try to post news and updates about Kentucky, but also, when applicable, like lessons learned from other state or opportunities that we're trying to bring to Kentucky operators that we've done elsewhere.
Real quick, Dan, we're over.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you for being here, and thank you for your interest, and thanks for allowing us to be here. So.
Yes, thank you so much. And thanks to Ignite It. We really appreciate you. Thanks, Patrick.
Our pleasure. Let's give it up for our Kentucky panel. Last Kentucky panel of the day, unfortunately. I could do it all day with Kentucky, you guys. Thanks very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really appreciate you coming. And Rachelle, thank you as always. Thank you, brother. Take care.